I'm going to touch upon another example of this materialization process, which is actively happening right now, not in large organized species, but at the minuscule level of single-celled creatures of bacteria. Now, this is something which is, Mother speaks of this. She says when people die, the physical body is discarded, but the subtle physical gradation and even the vital layer, which is very close to the physical, that may hang around for a while. And if it has strong imprints of desire, those imprints tend to take form and become the energetic basis for the materialization of bacteria. So she says they form and they become bacteria by the energy loops that they put out, the desires. Now, this statement is made in somewhere in the 50s. If you think about the implications of this, let's for the moment just say she is right, whether science agrees or not. The implications of this are extraordinary. It means new bacteria will keep appearing all the time, or at least new variations of bacteria types will keep appearing all the time, just from this process, from new patterns of energy that people shed. Now here's the interesting thing. Increasingly in modern exploration we discover each individual has a unique pattern of bacteria in their gut. Now you're born from your mother's body, but your gut did not join with her gut at any point, right? And yet you find bacteria imprints within you which are similar to your mother's gut. But then there are unique bacteria which are within you which are not similar to your mother's gut and nowhere in your mother's body, but unique to your body. How did they appear? In fact, the gut bacteria pattern is so unique you can measure that and know which person it is. It's like gene typing. Now the only explanation for this, if you look at the mother's description, is our emotional states, our desire imprints of energies at a very dense material level are what become the gut bacteria. You don't have to die for that. That's what happens when your body dies and that part becomes the bacteria in the air, in the environment. But it's happening in you right now. In the energy imprints of your desires and strong emotions, they are forming this type, unique to you. But the bacteria are in a constant interface in your digestive process and in your physical health. In other words, now increasingly we recognize the bacteria influence not only the nutrition in your blood, they influence your thought processes and even your emotional states. By introducing a particular gut bacteria, you can make for the thought forms to shift. I'll give an example here. There's a gut bacteria which is unique to cats. It transfers from the cat through the environment into the mouse. If it infects the mouse successfully, then inside the mouse it changes mouse behavior and it finds itself no more afraid of the cat. It finds itself even attracted to the cat. You see how the mechanism. And then it's eaten up by the cat, gets back into the gut bacteria of the cat, and through the cat poop it gets back into the environment to reinfect the mouse and bring it back to the cat. If you think of the bacteria now as an energy imprint, it is an energy imprint coming from the cat's desire to reach out to mouse, physically entering the mouse, making the mouse desire the cat, pulling it to the cat, and then recycling. Now if you think of bacteria differently, purely as energy imprints, you see how sensible this is and how it can modify behavior. Otherwise, purely by genetic terms, you cannot explain how bacteria in your gut will change the thought process in the mouse, will change the species behavior and overcome the instinct of fear of cat. You can't explain it unless it's an energetic change and not a genetic change. Okay? Now this has massive implications. It means our gut bacteria is a product of our desire imprints, which are then feeding back to your own thought forms, your emotional reactions. Today, increasingly, they are correlating gut bacteria with your body's tendency to put on fat or not put on fat, epileptic fits, thought formations, even psychiatric conditions have been tied to gut bacteria. You remove the gut bacteria and the psychiatric condition changes. This correlation is again unexplainable unless you recognize bacteria not primarily biological but as energy imprints. And the infection of an energy entering you, modifying your thought, or even troubling you from within as an energy bundle formation, a case of mild possession, we will say, by an energy bundle, rooting itself in the bacteria base of form. That is how you would be able to understand it more deeply. If you accept this, okay, one more point. Again, recent research shows all of us carry an environment of bacteria which is unique to our type. I spoke of guts, that's still inside the body. But around your body is an environment of bacteria which is also unique to you, measurable and as specific as gene typing. How does it get out from your skin to form an environment? Doesn't make sense. And you're moving all the time. Just now the fan spinning is blowing all the air away. And yet the environing bacteria is pretty much the same. How do you explain that? You cannot explain it unless you recognize bacteria is crystallization of my aura, energy, emotion, thought patterns. Now you recognize if bacteria are crystallization of your thoughts and emotions, what are the possibilities for this? Evolve out of it. So this idea of something materializing from a subtler grade is not so far out. It's happening right now within us, around us. And it goes both ways. Our thoughts, emotions materialize the bacteria types, and the bacteria type feed back to compel the same thought emotional patterns within us. So I've taken this as an example because otherwise in current research they just make this observation, they don't explain it. It's unexplainable. But when you look from this deeper angle, it's not only explainable, it makes eminent sense. If the cat and mouse can have this bacteria pulling it, what about human beings? We speak of pheromones, but that's only one small part of the energetic influences which go out there. You know what are pheromones? They are smells which the human body puts out, which change the behavior of people around you. Interestingly, by its very definition, a pheromone cannot be smelt. It's more like molecules which go out, and when they are breathed in, your brain, behavior, thought, emotion change. Suddenly you like the person or you don't like, you're attracted to the person or you're repelled. It changes your behavior energetically. And you can't explain this unless you recognize pheromone is nothing but the physical representation of energy, patterns of energy, which reach out constantly, interchange constantly, attract, repel, and have affinities or contraries of affinities. So what I am describing here, the reason I'm going into this is to show you there's already so much happening within and around us which involves physical representation of energy bundles. And there's this constant interchange taking place. So why not something more sophisticated? Why not the bacteria now grows to become more complex of that grade of consciousness of energy, thought, emotion, and grow eventually to become a type of its own more complex? Not a big stretch. Real idea, building its own significant forms. The physical methods vary. Creative power may use many processes. It doesn't need one process. In matter, the process is a creation of infinitesimals charged with an immense energy. Their association by design and number, the manifestation of larger infinitesimals on that primary basis. The grouping and association of these together to found the appearance of sensible objects, earth, water, minerals, metals, the whole material kingdom. Straight away he's giving you the mechanism in matter. What happened? First you had infinitesimals which were created, charged with immense energy. So what's an electron? Infinitesimal. Created how? Well, it just came. We don't know how. Okay, you go down to subatomic particles, muons, which are unstable. But you have other kinds of leptons and all kinds of names. They give you a zoo of 300 particles, all unstable. But they start with huge energy in a tiny spot. Then they associate, join by design and number. An atomic structure is created. Protons, electrons insert into each other. Grouping of larger infinitesimals on that basis. And you see the enormous energy which is held in the atoms. Then the grouping and association of these to found appearance of sensible objects. When many atoms combine, you have molecules which create all the minerals, metals, earth, water, and the whole material kingdom. All molecules are basis for that. So what do you see here? Infinitesimal combining to form stable groups, then those groups combining to create this type. At the beginning, the infinitesimal has huge energy. By the time it has become the stable type, that energy is now as if hidden inside. So you can take a blade of grass and burn it. You will not have an atomic explosion. Interesting. You are only changing the superficial grouping. But if you went back all the way and broke the atom, you would have the atomic explosion and release. So what's the pattern he's teaching you here of mechanism of materialization? Okay, tiny bits with huge energy combining to create stable forms with less energy expressed, all energy bound and hidden. Then these stable forms with lower energy combining to create the larger macroscopic forms where you have practically no appearance of energy. It's content, stable, still. At best you burn, gives off a little bit of heat. That's it. Now this is at the mineral level. In life also, the consciousness force begins with infinitesimal forms of vegetable life and infinitesimal animalcules. Not molecules, animalcules. Sri Aurobindo is making a new word. But you see the idea. The seed of plant, not physical seed, the seed form which is representing plant, the plankton in the ocean would be one of those types. But you could go still smaller. They are still vegetal in nature, but single-celled vegetal forms. Similarly, of animal nature, there are single-celled animal forms, animalcules. It creates an original plasm that combines to create the more stable structure and multiplies it, creates the living cell as a unit, creates other kinds of minute biological apparatus, like the seed or the gene. Uses always the same method of grouping and association so as to build by a various operation various living organisms. So now if you go back to the original, it's the same structure as we saw with minerals. These tiny things which have the energy combining to create something more complex, which is the plasm, and then its combinations and variation of its combinations making for everything else. All plant structure you can reduce to certain common genetic structures, which you can reduce to certain common essential core elements, certain common essential cells or plasm structures. Same with higher forms of life. And then variety.